What's up, people? Welcome to a brand new edition of Wrestle Update. I'm your host, as always, Dylan Fox. Joining me, as always, my good friend, one of my best friends in life, one of the best people I know in life, and one of the best wrestling minds I know in life, when he is sober, and sometimes when he is not. Nella de Angelis, you are here once again.
What's up? How's it going? We are here for the new era of Wrestle Update to begin.
A completely new era, and what better way to start it off than to go back again? A couple of months ago, we did our first ever retro show with ECW One Night Stand, and a lot of people really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed doing it, in fact. And so, obviously, there was a ton of controversy on Cage Match and the website about everything going on with SummerSlam. So, we're making a little bit of a pivot now. We're going to the past once again, and a show that I've seen before, and I watched it so long ago that I basically have forgotten all of it outside of like two or three things, really. And that is the first ever Ring of Honor show. That's right. All the way back in 2002. The era of Honor begins. So let me just break down, before we get into that, the show took place from February 23rd, 2002, so right at the start of the year. What was your knowledge, Nello, of the start? Obviously, we know ROH as a company now. We've done their show once or twice on here, where we've talked about their modern shows. What was kind of your history with ROH as a company, especially in this starting era?
I didn't, so like my knowledge about ROH is like I knew like Gabe was part of it at some point. I didn't know if he was one of the founders or whatever, but I was actually coming in to ask you, like, for your knowledge on what was the beginning of Ring of Honor, because I really don't know.
Okay, so this actually gets mentioned a little bit on the show, because we have some wonderful promos to talk about on this show. The founder was not Gabe. It was actually everyone's least favorite person in wrestling, Rob Feinstein. So the deal behind this was, and they mentioned it a lot on the show where they said RF Video presents Ring of Honor. They said that it funnily enough, low key was like the corporate shill. I think was the first one to bring this up. But RF Video, I'm sure you know them. Like, props are due. They did a lot of shoot interviews, especially around this time, where this was like the shoot interview, like dream period. Before podcasts had really gotten off, they would have wrestlers come in and ask them real life questions, basically to talk shit on people. And there have been some legendary ones back in that era, especially when I first started. I really didn't get into ROH because I didn't have the internet until around 07, 08. So, and I took a lot from them when I was wrestling, because I was still wrestling at that time. But I went back and was able to go online and find these shows. And obviously at this time, 2002 was a totally different period. These shows were completely marketed on video, like DVDs and stuff. There wasn't a TV deal. It wasn't available on YouTube. It wasn't online. It was all DVDs. Every single month they would come out with a new show. And that's how ROH was. Which is a lot different than now, of course. And even during most of the last decade plus, that's not how they operated. Really the last 15 years. But, so basically, RF was the primary distributor of like ECW, right? And that's where Gabe came in. Like, that's where Feinstein had his connection with Gabe, because he worked with ECW hand in hand. So when ECW closed down, Rob was trying to like get his next big thing, like the next big promotion that RF could be associated with and make money through that. I know they tried with some other promotions. I don't remember exactly which ones. I'm sure like CZW was pretty famous for that. They may have tried the XPW, but I don't know about that because I know XPW and ECW had heat or whatever. But they tried different promotions to really get in with. But eventually they were just like, man, the indie scene was so devastated. And this is something I've talked to people about before. About after WCW closed down, that really hit the indies hard. Like, because there was just less opportunity and less of a pathway and less stars from there. But they obviously started back in Philadelphia, the home of ECW, and where RF was located and all of that. Obviously, things would change a lot. Like, it wasn't that long. Again, we're giving a little bit of a history lesson. It's not really relevant to the show. We're talking about the future. But that lasted, like, Feinstein's version of ROH lasted a couple of years before, like, we know what happened with him. He was on the pedophile show. I don't even know the name of it, to be honest with you. The one where Chris Hansen's on there, I believe. But they caught, yeah, I think that's it. And he was caught on one of those type of shows, like going after like a 15-year-old boy or something. It was bad. Like, it was really bad. They were working with TNA at the time, and TNA pulled all of their guys out of Ring of Honor after that. And it was a big scandal in wrestling at the time, because before that, he had like a great reputation. RF Video was heavily like respected and all of that stuff. So he had to leave. Like, TNA pulled all of its guys. And that led to like Styles and Daniels, who were like two ROH pillars at the time, getting pulled, and that led to a lot of craziness. And that was when it went to Kerry Silkin. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he was the second owner of Ring of Honor, pretty much. And they moved to another thing like that, where ROH tried to work with the indies more. Like, because during the Feinstein era, it was more like them versus the world, ECW type shit. And then when Silkin bought it, they worked more with like PWG and stuff like that. They started to sell PWG's DVDs at their shows and all of that. And they moved on, they expanded, they grew. And then eventually Gabe ended up leaving around late 2008. I remember when this happened. Like, I was already online at the time. And he was like moved out of position to be replaced by Adam Pearce, who's like the Raw GM currently, if you're a WWE fan. But at the time, he was like the NWA champion, and Ring of Honor like got him to book their shows. That lasted for a couple of years, and they moved into Cornette booking the shows, and they signed with a TV station called HDNet, which right now is known as Axis, who actually currently owns TNA. So you can see they jumped around. There was a lot of movement in 2008 to 2012 or so going on there. They had their first show. They replaced Pierce with Delirious, because Cornette was booking. All those guys had to go. And that's when they moved Delirious into being the booker, and he lasted for a long time. And that's when they got hired by Sinclair, which I'm sure is the era you probably jumped in on, Nello.
Yes.
Where they were on like national TV, but in syndication, which is an unusual circumstance in the modern era. It wasn't that unusual in the past, but like Silkin basically sold out, but stayed in the company for a little while as like a consultant or whatever. They had a brief run on Destination America, another TNA weirdo channel that they were on, but that didn't last too long overall. And then by the end of it, they got into the Joe Koff era. Rest in peace. He passed away not that long ago. And he was really pushing for the company to expand. That's when they started Honor Club, which is the basis of, where we're at right now. With the show they started during that era. COVID hit, and they were one of the few companies that did right by the workers, which we do have to praise them for. But in the end, that just wasn't profitable enough. And they ended up selling out to Tony Khan. which is where we're at today. And that's where you see the seeds of Honor Club. But that just goes to show you all of this history that I just said. There was a lot of shit that happened in the last 20 years with this company, like 23 years or so. There were so many different eras and so many different things. I can't wait to relive some of the later eras with you too, more so than this show. This was not the peak of Ring of Honor that we are about to talk about, I promise you, on the first show. But I would really love to go back and find more shows around that 06, 07 Danielson, Morishima era. That was like my favorite stuff. And then Jimmy Jacobs, who I took personal like influence from for my character at the time. I love the company a lot, especially around this era. And I have to say, as an analyst, I'm probably going to be kind of hard on this show. But for me, I told you and I texted you last night, I really get a lot of warm feelings. Like, because this is a different era of independent wrestling than we could ever see today. And a lot of stuff would never happen today on this show, for better and worse, I would say. But yeah, so knowing all that, did I do an okay job kind of going through the history of the company? Do you have any questions that you need me to answer?
No, that was a great rundown. Thank you.
Yeah, so hopefully if you guys aren't familiar with that too much, that was a lot. I promise you there. I also forgot to mention too, during the tail end of Feinstein's and the early days of Silkin's era, they had a really close relationship with another company called Full Impact Pro, FIP. That's where like Go Shiozaki won his first singles title in the past. They were like one of the first indies to have a minor league system almost with FIP. So like they did a lot of interesting and like they had a lot of forward thinking stuff going on in the company around this time. And again, even in the early days, this was the company where it was like, because again, after WCW and ECW closed down, the indies were in disarray. One of my mentors when I still wrestled was this guy. I don't know if a lot of people know him now, but at the time he was like a huge name. His name was Tom Carter, also known as Reckless Youth. And he told me stories about how big it used to be in the 90s and how basically it immediately plummeted afterwards. And then comes this new company with RF Video, again, a very respected video service at the time, and I think they're still around today. I know Feinstein does stuff with conventions and stuff. I don't know if they still just shoot stuff, just because podcasts have become so popular. But the scene was in disarray. People weren't making that much money. And then here comes this new company where their whole mission was like, hey, if somebody's got buzz on the indies, we're bringing their ass to Philly, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do a show here and now, type of deal. So, at the time, this was seen as a big deal. Like it was right away. Like, okay, Ring of Honor's here. Like this is a new generation of the indies. Like, what's gonna happen? Like what is this company gonna pull out afterwards? So it's not like it was just some no company. This was probably the biggest happening in the indie scene for a lot of years, and one of the most noteworthy, like ultimately, like the most longest lasting. It came to us from the Murphy Recreation Center in Philly. Commentators were Eric Gargiulo and Steve Corino, who was a former ECW champion at the time. I know he was another guy that had like deep NWA ties, Carino, and he was on this show as a commentator. I don't know why he wasn't wrestling. Maybe he didn't want to, or I don't know. At the end of the day, but overall, I just thought it was so interesting because of how like different this show was than I thought it was going to be. To be honest, like or how maybe I had some kind of moment where I pushed a lot of stuff outside of my memory. But when I watched this show, again, we'll kind of go over our overall thoughts at the end. But if you watch this show and after you finished, and again, we're watching with 2025 eyes, we have to give that in fairness, which is not the eyes this show would have been viewed about at the time, obviously. Did it feel to you like, okay, this is the start of something big, like something that would last for over 20 years in the future and be on TV and have pay-per-views and all that stuff? Did you feel like, okay, this is a new era, like whatever was before everything changed? Because that's kind of how it was in reality. Like after this show, it changed the indies forever. Did you kind of feel that by the end? Because I can tell you right now, I did not.
I did not. But again, like, you know, some of the highlights of, like, we'll get into it, but some of the highlights of this are like things that you would see weekly in an AEW now, right? Which is to say, like, there definitely are some very impactful things, but like, trying to think, there's so much that's regressive. And that feels very much like almost WWE in a sense, when like
that was my feeling too. Yeah,
that they talk about is like, we're sick of the WWF. So it was interesting on that.
and like the whole company. So they did have a gimmick, just like Extreme Championship Wrestling was the hardcore barbed wire city and all that. ROH's was, this is the pure wrestling company. Like, we have the code of honor. You must shake hands. There are 5 rules. They had a rule book that they gave out to fans pretty much at the time, where it was like the 5. I don't even remember what the rules were of the code of honor, but they had that. They made it a big selling point of the show early on. And then, like, sometimes they'll do stuff like a fight without honor was a big gimmick match in the early days. So it's like, no more code of honor. Okay, I have the code of honor right in front of me. These are the 5 points here. The 5 laws of honor. So you must shake hands before and after every match, which did not happen on the show. So automatically, like, that's on, they've already broken the rules on show 1. No outside interference. So you cannot have that in any of their matches. No sneak attacks. No harming the officials, and no purposely disqualifying oneself. Definitive winners by pinfall or submission were always expected. And to be honest, they basically, ultimately, as it's a good gimmick for the fans, because again, at the time, people were sick of WWF's bullshit. We were coming off the Invasion, one of the worst storylines ever. One day, Nello, this is an on-air production meeting, as we like to do. I want us to do a fantasy booking show, rebooking the Invasion on there, because they fucked it up so bad. There's no way anyone could do it worse. But the fans were sick of this crap, and they wanted to see a more realistic wrestling company, and that's what this company promised them. However, Gabe Sapolsky's real idea as the booker of this, basically the code of honor was really used to help the bad guys, like, so they could cheat. Like, that gives them a rule to break. Like, that's basically what these really were, more so than a true creed of the promotion. That they were like, which I think would have been interesting. Like a pure sports-based promotion. Like, we haven't really ever seen that, especially in America. I mean, we've seen it in Japan with Rings and UWFI. But a pure sports-based promotion, I think, could really work and get over. But it's just never been tried before. Do you think that they should have adhered to the code of honor more after watching show 1? Or were you just like, it's a gimmick?
It definitely felt like a gimmick here. When I watched in the Sinclair era, it felt way more part of like the blood of it. Like I don't think they ever really made the handshake mean something in this show for the most part.
Yeah.
With the exception of the main event.
Yeah. And that was the one time that it felt like what the show was supposed to be like at the end of the day. So we start off. Also mentioning this show is free on YouTube to see if you want to check it out. Just search up the Era of Honor Begins, and you'll be quick. So if you guys want to check that out, it's right there. So we start the show off. The first thing we see is the bus here. This lasted forever. This opening segment, like that, they went. They were on the bus. The Hit Squad was there, who were going to be big push commodities on the first show we were about to see. They had him there, and he was talking about how, like, you know, Ring of Honor, like, this is big time, new generation. They showed Spanky there, Brian Kendrick. He was going in there, and he was, like, being stupid in the Brian Kendrick way, I guess you could say. They had all these guys on a bus. They shouted out all these people that were there in the company. This was kind of like their roll call for the show in a lot of ways, which I thought was interesting. What I also thought was interesting is that they shouted out AJ Styles, who was not on the show, but was in the bus in there. But it kind of gave you an idea of who the top indie dudes were at the time here. So a lot of these guys, too, were coming in from the Northeast and stuff overall. Like, so these guys were really hungry. A lot of these guys were super young. They had the Hit Squad outside the building with, like, a group of random fans. And they try to get over this, like, street guys type of character. And they cut to the guys in the circle around him. And they cut to, like, this probably 50-year-old white guy with a mustache that's in the middle of this, like, hood meeting, which was awesome. Like, it was very funny. He said, there's a new drug. He's like, we love drugs, don't we? There's a new drug right now that you all going to become addicts to. And he pointed to his arm like a heroin addict and was like, I'm talking about Ring of Honor. And that got big cheers from the people. So just right away, before we get into where this would go, and we'll have a lot to say, I'm sure, about where this would go. What did you just think about this opening here with the bus, the people outside the building, and the Hit Squad kind of being the ambassadors of Ring of Honor to start off?
Yeah, like this whole thing was, I texted you that I liked the stuff that was happening in between, almost more than some of the wrestling at times. This felt pretty prophetic, you know, like the reason we're covering this show is because we are trying to pivot away from WWE content as well. So, you know, tonight you people get to kiss sports entertainment's ass goodbye. They promote the alternative, new wave, hardest hittest wrestling for all the people who are sick of the WWF. It was feeling very serendipitous. I was feeling very hopeful. I was like, wow, this is the beginning of a new thing. He told me, I'm pretty sure it was Math, said you're all going to become drug addicts and your new drug of choice will be Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And then the Christopher Street connection came out.
Yeah, by the way, Hit Squad is Dan Maff and Stevie Mack, who are like, I'm sure, like, if you're an indie fan, you've probably heard the name Dan Maff, because he was a pretty big deal, like, at a time, especially at this time. You know, there was a company, again, Reckless Tom used to wrestle for, called JAPW, like Jersey All Pro, which still also survives today, but they were one of the original indies. And a lot of these guys came from those ranks. These guys were 2 Homicide trainees. Math had a more influential career than Mac, but he never really was able to, like, break through to what a lot of people thought his potential was either. You know, Monster Mac had a decent run, but not nearly as much. We saw, hey, to be fair though, Stevie Mack, he did team with KTB in GCW at one point. The Hit Squad from the B Squad in GCW as well. So he lasted a little while. So they were there hyping up. I agree. I like this opening. It really riled us, riled everybody up pretty much. It was really good. They cut some good promos. So shout out to Dan Maff and Monster Mac. So then they cut to the building, and what is the first thing we see? YMCA. So that starts playing, and we see the Christopher Street connection. Buffy and Mace Mendoza, who I love when you told me you thought and accompanied by Allison Danger, who you thought was Buffy. They thought, but they did call her Allison Danger on the entrance. To be fair, so describe the Christopher Street connection to those who are not in the know as we may be after watching this.
So they're like, I don't even think there's really a comparison for this. Like the closest thing, because like Billy and Chuck was not at this level. Like there's nothing else that really goes to this level. They are an overtly gay gimmick where they come out and they literally say ROH stands for Ring of Homosexuals.
That was amazing.
They kiss. I thought it was awesome. This feels like something that would be so fun on Big Gay Brunch. Like, honestly, if there was a comparison, I would say like MXM is the only thing that you could really get close to this in terms of the flaming quality of the charisma here. And it's it was such a curveball. Because
you never saw this coming.
I was just on the bus with all the New York wrestling fans getting my rah-rah chant. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, so how do we get the fans in it? We're going to bring out some gay people and then beat them down. And then be like, this is Ring of Honor. This is what the fuck we do. And it was so like jarring. Like it's very of its era. And, I'm not going to pretend to be like, oh my God, this was so offensive. Like, yeah, it's fucked up and it's terrible, but like, it's just so stupid at the same time.
Yeah.
And then after this, they doubled down. The Hit Squad does, because then they're like, well, we were just homophobic, so now what should we do? And then they were like, let's just be misogynistic. So then they murder Allison Danger, but not like, oh, let's like powerbomb her. They're like, we need to put her through a table. We need to embarrass her. We need to humiliate her. We need to really hurt her. And commentary was very good at reinforcing the fact that they hate women. And yeah, this was the most 2000 start to an independent wrestling show that promises to be the alternative could possibly be.
Yeah, like the Christopher Street connection on their own were actually awesome. Like I thought. So they came out, and I've been a fan of Allison Danger for years as a wrestler. As I told you, like her being on the show is hilarious for so many reasons. And so they cut this awesome promo, like you said, the Ring of Homosexuals. Some fan is heckling him, and he says, "Well, I might be gay, but you're queer." He said, which was an awesome line, I thought. Like, and this was like a really, like you said, if this happened on Big Gay Brunch, this would feel like a super cool and empowering segment. But however, this was 2002 Ring of Honor, and therefore the commentary made it so homophobic that it was a little crazy. I do have to say, because like they were so over the top. This was like the most gay panic commentary I think I've ever heard ever. Like when they kissed the fan, like Carino and Eric were like, "Oh my God!" Like he kissed someone. He kissed a fan, and even worse, he kissed a male fan. And then they're like, "I don't know why she's here. What this relationship is? It's super weird." And all this, and when and they even like you said, the Hit Squad came in, they destroyed them, and Dan Moff ended up hitting Buffy, dropped him with a burning hammer, and they were like, He dropped him right on top of his gay head here. And then they destroy Alice in Danger and Carino. As I said to you, there's no doubt in my mind that he got Alice in Danger this gig because there was no real reason for her to be here, particularly in this gimmick. But then not only did he get her a booking, his own sister in real life, he proceeded to call her a slut for no reason as they destroyed her and embarrassed her and put her through the table. This was insane to start off a show with, especially for like, we're all about honor. This is real wrestling. They did the most homophobic and misogynistic segment, one of possibly ever, I would say. So it was a culture shock, one that I was not expecting at all. It doesn't age well, but I do think, like you said, if you put it in the right circumstance, without them getting destroyed and the commentary just destroying them and embarrassing them, unfortunately, everything else we got about it was horrible and embarrassing. That sucked. Like, I liked the performance of them, and I thought that they... And I think, by the way, in future shows, I'm pretty sure they get over with the fans as babyfaces. The Christopher Street connection in the early Ring of Honor days. So they did get accepted just for being awesome, pretty much, which is a very nice story. So we move on from that, and they move on to the first real match in the history. Amazing Red versus Jay Briscoe. Starting off, this was one of the only things I remember from this show, that the Briscoes were underage at the time, because they were wrestling in CCW and stuff like that. And I think Jay had just recently turned 18. So they had him in a singles match, and Mark was there, but he wasn't wrestling. I guess the commission in Pennsylvania was like that. I don't really know for sure, because I know they wrestled together before this show. These guys looked so young here. Like, this was the earliest I think I've ever seen Jay, and even Red, it's among the earliest I've seen. They looked like kids here. What was your experience watching Red and young Jay here?
This was a good match. I'd go like 7 on this.
Yeah, it was one of the best of the show, I thought, to be honest.
Totally agree. This was... if this is where the show started, it would have been a completely different feeling. Like, you really could have cut out everything that we just discussed and have the show start here, and this would have been such a better starting point, but oh well. What I thought was really funny is when both guys come out, both of their entrances is they drink from the water bottle and then dump it on their heads. Both dudes do the same exact thing. Red wins, lots of cool high flying, lots of top rope moves. Seeing such a young Jay was crazy, man. And Mark looked even younger.
Yeah, Mark was even younger. Imagine, compare him now to where he is on TV.
Yeah, yeah. And just really blast from the past. This was a cool match. Like, I mean, this felt like something you'd see on a GCW show nowadays. Like, just a nice little filler match.
And there wasn't any, like I said, these guys were super young. These guys, again, that was the point of this promotion, really, was that we're bringing in the guys who have made a name for themselves on the indies. These were 2 of the hot acts, the Briscoe Boys and Amazing Red. So hot that Red would wrestle another time for literally no reason. We'll get to that later. But these guys... there was no psychology or any of that crap. Like, it was all big moves. And we saw a lot here. We saw the J Driller here. We had big moves going in there. Red at the time, too. Basically, all those guys in the multiman match, they were all trained by Mikey Whipwreck, right? So that's another place where they got a lot of this early talent, the younger talent there. I thought the crowd was awesome, too, for this. They made it feel like, hey, this is a big deal. Like, even between 2 kids that were virtual unknowns in the grand scheme, they made it feel like this is a superstar hot match they wanted to see. Jay hit a muscle buster at one point. Hit some big kicks in the corner. There were some good counters. They came in with big suplexes back and forth, like Japanese style at the time. Remember, we're just coming off the 90s All Japan era, too, at this time. Which would obviously be a big influence on a lot of people, I would say. He goes up top, looks for a big senton, but it didn't work. And in the end, Red hit his big moves, the infrared, which is like a spiral tap. Looked great. But starting from the opposite direction as AJ did. And then the Red Star press to win. So, yeah, like you said, you could totally implant this match into a 2025 GCW opener, and it would be just as fun and just as effective at what they wanted to do. And that means at the time, this was probably like a generational level match to a lot of people. This was the first time people saw these guys. So they were like, whoa. Like, this is not what you're not getting this match on Raw in 2002, the HLA era, which maybe even more homophobic than what we saw in this show. This was such a weird time of combining both misogyny and homophobia into one. Wrestling was clearly going on that tip here. But you were not getting a match like this on WWE in 2002. And I think that helped it stand out. Would you give a star rating?
For Red Briscoe?
Yeah.
3.5.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly what I would have it. It's like perfectly effective for what they wanted. It didn't go too long, and it was a really fun match. That they looked great. And you could see why they became legends later on with this early moment and why they were so popular so early. So then we cut. Yeah, go on.
What did the inmates go on this one?
6.33.
Okay. It's a little bit lower than we did.
Yeah, a little bit low. Like, the whole show was a little low by the inmates, I would say. But after that, we cut to Low Key. For whatever reason, I don't know what gym this was or what was going on here. They had multiple promos for this. But all I know is there was a big South Korea flag in the background, which I don't know why. I don't know where this was. I don't know what was going on. I don't know whose idea it was to cut these promos. But I'm so glad they did. Low Key talks about how this is like everything will change. He was like, RF Video presents Ring of Honor. I am the most honorable fighter. I fight with honor. And therefore, I will go out to fight with honor. Be ready. This is how he ended his promo, which was awesome. I loved it. Then we see another great promo. The Natural Born Sinners, Homicide and Boogaloo. I think we all know Homicide pretty well. And we get young Homicide here, where he goes, look at this. This is my neighborhood. Look at this. And he's basically in an empty parking lot. And he's like, this is what happened to my neighborhood. He said, this is where I deal drugs, do drive-bys, and all of that. He was like, he didn't know what else to say. So it was like that gangster stuff, as the white boys call it. This was so funny. Like, I laughed so hard at this. And he basically just said, I've got my boy from the South, Boogaloo. He was like, East Side, West Side, Dirty South, even the Northeast, which is also the East Side. I just thought this was such a funny. Both of these promos were hilarious to me. Did you have any other take from them?
No, I loved them. Like I said, this was the stuff that I enjoyed the most. This like CZW fans basement feel promos, just like, you know, what I thought was funny is like everyone on this show and their promos and everything seemed so hesitant to curse. And I don't know if that was like some edict that they got or whatever, but like, he's like, oh, I'm doing drive-bys and all this gang type stuff.
Yeah, gang type like, stuff. That's what he said. Yeah, that was hilarious.
And then, you know, I'm freaking done with it. Like just all this frickin' and heck and just like, I'm like, they're so tough, but they can't curse. Yeah. It was just very funny. No, this stuff was gold and it was so much better than the actual, what are they fucking called? The
The natural born sinners. The Boogie Knights were their opponents.
Boogie Knights were their opponents. Yeah, the Natural Born Sinners match was hoof. So this was the highlight of Homicide on the show.
Yeah, and I have no idea. He may very well be from the streets, for all I know. And I grew up in North Memphis, so like I get it. But this did not make you feel like, street cred was not high in 02 for Homicide here. But just the idea, this gang type stuff, like who says that? Like, overall, it was really funny. So yeah, Homicide would eventually become one of and Low-Key as well. We knew Low-Key in the main event. What do you think about his promo? Do you have any thoughts on the gym and Low-Key's original promo, perhaps?
No, just his voice is always so much deeper than I expect it to be.
Be ready. I loved it. It was great. So then we go to a completely different match that had nothing to do with either of these people. Scoot Andrews versus Xavier here. So this match was originally going to be Xavier versus Mike Quackenbush, another guy who would start his own company in a few months. But allegedly he didn't want to job to Xavier in a vintage Quackenbush move. So they was like, well, fuck you. Like, we're not going to use you then. And he had to go fuck off to Chikara. And so they bring in Scoot Andrews, the Black Nature Boy, which was very interesting here. Did you have any real knowledge? Xavier, a future ROH champion, rest in peace to him. He passed away just last year as well. Do you have any knowledge or thoughts on these two going in?
I've heard about Xavier. I remember Xavier being one of like the big early days Ring of Honor guys. I had never really seen him wrestle that much though. Scoot Andrews was completely new to me. Yeah, what about you? Like these guys that you've watched a lot?
I'm definitely familiar with Xavier. He was one of the early guys in the promotion. They did a promo too before this where Xavier was like, he talked to some guy and he was like, hey, are you down? And he's like, yeah, it was rough. And he's like, keep your head up, man. It's going to get better. Don't worry. And the guy was like, whatever. And then this cut to Scoot Andrews and he was like, I've had a great year. It was a really generic babyface promo Scoot cut for the Black Nature Boy. He was like, I've had a great year, made a name for myself. I got to take it out on somebody. Sorry, it's got to be you, Xavier. So like they were fine, but nothing too special. Like I said, Xavier, he was an original champion of Ring of Honor, like the ROH champion in the early days. So he was a big part. I recognized him with his team with Daniels being a part of the Prophecy. Scoot, I really didn't have that much of a knowledge of. I may have seen him before, but I really had no memory of him. I watched this match like pretty fresh-faced again, going back into it. Xavier and Low-Key were rivals at the time, and that's how they kind of made their name against each other in the Northeast. They have a lot of famous matches if you want to check them out on YouTube, including a ladder match, which was good. The fans chant AC Slater at Xavier, so which fair if you are a fan of Saved by the Bell. He did kind of have a Mario Lopez type look, I will say. I thought it was a mistake putting this match on after Jay and Red, actually. Like, I think it would have felt better afterwards because they did kind of a similar indie square off segment, like which I'm sure we've all seen by this point, but at the time was probably a little bit more novel.
No, you definitely could have switched it up. Like,
yeah,
they put two decent matches at the beginning of the show, a whole bunch of shit in the middle, and then the two good matches at the end of the show. I would have liked it more peppered throughout.
Yeah, but still, this was probably better than some other stuff we would see on the show. But the problem is, like, they did their indie standoff was kind of similar to Jay and Red, but it was a lot less intense and a lot less exciting. And it was okay, but it wasn't what they were breaking out.
This had like a WWE formula to it in the beginning, I felt, with the rest holds and the sort of pacing. But once it hit its second half, I thought it got pretty special, and it felt like your standard AEW TV match in terms of like Xavier reminded me so much of just like that, babyface Anthony Bowens type wrestler, just super babyface, and like not too flashy, but no, not super flashy with like move variety or like
he wasn't doing the Red Star press,
no,
like that,
or the twisting Phoenix Splash, right? But like what he does, he's very good at.
Yeah, I thought there was a spot in this match where he hit a flapjack and it looked awesome. Like he was like a flapjack but turned into a DDT somehow. It may have just been how Scoot took it, but it looked really good. I thought. You had an Alabama Slam by Scoot at one point here, and he runs at Scoot. Scoot hits a lariat. He goes for the top rope, but misses a top rope leg drop, which I thought was a cool move here in 2002. He goes in, and he like throws him into the corner. Immediately runs up with some jumping knees. Again, like a pretty cool move in 2002. They look for Scoot comes in with a Stinger death drop, and then what they called the force of nature, which was kind of like a pump Hamill into like an awful waffle almost here, and he got the win, but Xavier's foot was under the ropes. So Scoot
that looked great though. That was
it was awesome.
Move.
Yeah, the force of nature. This was a killer move. Yeah, we need to see this brought back here. So he's pissed at the ref, and he looks for it again, but then Xavier counters that into the X Breaker here to win. I do like, as someone who had Fox in many of his move names, I like the tribute to using your gimmick, like your name, in all of your moves as well. Like anything was X that he did, it felt like they were calling. So I did like that at the end of the day. But yeah, I actually agree with what you said. Which like the X Breaker was kind of like a double arm cross into kind of like a neck breaker stunner thing here. And so he hit it. He won with that 5.67 rating on Cage Match. But I actually agree with you. I thought it was better than that.
I go 6. I go like a solid 3 stars.
Yeah, like a good solid 3.25 star match here. Like if you saw this on TV, you'd be happy with it. It's not going to win the match of the year. Even in 2002 it wasn't, but it was good, and I liked it. And I think it would have come across even better again if they put it before Red and Jay. And that's just my opinion. So then they go to the Natural Born Sinners versus the Boogie Knights. And I do not mean Disco Inferno and Alex Wright here. This was Danny Drake and Mike Tobin. I knew nothing about these guys when I saw them. They are trained by Dory Funk Jr., the Funkin' Dojo. But overall, they came in. This is something we forgot to mention in the Homicide promo, because they teased that here, and it paid off in the match. So we did get match to promo to match storytelling. At the end of it, they said, "We lost everything. This is all we got." And Boogaloo pulls out a rubber chicken.
I thought this was a real raw chicken at first, and I was like, that looks like the most unhealthy chicken I've ever seen in my life.
It was not real. It was a rubber chicken at the end.
Yeah.
How do you think the rubber chicken worked as a weapon gimmick?
It was so stupid. Like this is your gang type stuff.
Yeah, this is gang type stuff. I don't know what it was like in New York, but in North Memphis, I never saw this happen. And I grew up around a lot of gangs. I'm not lying right now.
Look,
I never once saw a rubber chicken being used in anything ever.
Wrestle Update is rebranding. We're stepping away from WWE. We're stepping away from CM Punk. GTS now stands for gang type stuff. Okay, that's where we're at now.
We did see the Topecon hero from Homicide, known then as the Topecon Hilo. There, we did see that. To be fair, I like their kind of finisher they did before, before the rubber chicken attack, where it was like a half Nelson suplex into a jumping clothesline. Looked pretty good. And instead, they were like, "Nah, we ain't gonna win the match. We got to get our rubber chicken over." And the referee was like, "No, you've gone too far. Disqualification." So the Boogie Nights get the win. And then we see them bring out like the future Railroad Spike. And they stab one of them in the head. And then we see the cop killer, the Vertebreaker, as well from Homicide. Probably one of the first times on a national stage we saw that. This was pretty brutal, I have to say.
I hated this.
Yeah, this was bad.
This was worse than the opening segment, and that one was morally corrupt. This one was just bad. Like, they're like, hey, tonight you can kiss Sports Entertainment's ass goodbye, but also we're going to have a 7-minute tag match go to a DQ because they used a rubber chicken. Like, get the fuck out of here. That's the most WWF shit ever.
This was like bad WCW. Like, Thunder would have a segment like this.
Yeah.
On it.
This was just bad. I was confused the whole time. I didn't know if the chicken was real or raw. You know, I didn't know the Boogie Nights facing Boogaloo confused me. There was too many Boog names. Just really bad all around. I will say I didn't know that Homicide had been coming out in the Halloween Michael Myers mask for this long. Like, I'd seen him come out in it later in his career and stuff like that. But
they both had masks on. Like,
yeah,
Boogaloo had to
in the promo. This is why we wear our masks, you know. And so I thought that lore drop was interesting, at least to know the background behind the Michael Myers mask. But again, like, just the strangest gang, probably, with the rubber chicken wearing Halloween masks.
Yeah. What street did you grow up on? Homicide. I want to know this, man.
Elm Street, apparently.
Yeah, they were the bangers on Elm Street. Clearly.
Yeah.
But yeah, they came out with like orange jumpsuits and wearing the Halloween mask, and I think he might have had a Jason mask on or whatever. Boogaloo did. This was one of the first instances of controversy in Ring of Honor, though. Boogaloo, someone I'm sure nobody knows at this point, he was the first man to jump ship. Shortly, a few months after the first show here, he said, "I'm out. I'm going to XPW." And then he was never heard from again. So yeah, this match sucked. Totally agree. We go backstage, we see the return of the Christopher Street Connection, and they're like, "Ah, man, like that hurt." And then and then Spanky comes in doing his like proto the Brian Kendrick dance here, going in there. And then they make some weird comments about him, and they say, "Oh, like it's bad, but this is a good-looking locker room," or something like that. Very offensive, I would say. Do you think they told Kendrick what he was doing, or did they just say, "Hey, go in there and dance past those guys there"? And he was like, "Oh, okay," and he just did it.
I think Kendrick wrote the segment.
I believe that. I think so as well. I think you're completely right on that. Spanky. Known for his creative mind in WWE.
Backstage agent Spanky.
Yeah. What a world. Like, what a fucking world wrestling is. So that would become a true fact later on. So then, again, none of these people had anything to do with the next match. I just want to point that out.
Now, the rollout of these backstage promos and stuff like that didn't make sense. Like, because they did the Homicide one before the Xavier and Scoot Andrews match, right? Instead of the Boogie Nights match. So the whole rollout just really made no sense whatsoever.
We could presume that there was not a great budget for this show, I think. And I think that led to a lot of mistakes being made in editing. And I don't think they captured whatever... I don't know if Gabe captured whatever Gabe was going for here. So then we move on to the like elimination match. We've got the SATs, Jose and Joe Maximo, and Amazing Red back again for seemingly no reason.
Dude.
It's just like, I was like, hey, he wrestled earlier. Like, what's Red doing out here?
He's the first one eliminated this time after winning his previous match.
Yeah, like the ultimate 50-50 booking. You don't even go another show without taking a loss after a big win. Like, first ever Ring of Honor match winner, Amazing Red, immediately jobs in the show. They were there along with Brian XL, Chris Divine, and Quiet Storm, who were a tag team. Divine Storm. Quiet Storm, a long-time Japanese wrestler. While he moved to Japan, he was still American. He moved to Japan and wrestled there for 2 decades. He's still kicking to this day. The GLEAT influence on the show was unexpected, but I always have a soft spot for him as well. So, did you have any go-ahead knowledge of besides Red, who you earlier in the show, and I'm sure you've seen Quiet Storm many times, did you know anything about any of the others? You might be on mute.
Hello? Hello?
There you are.
Okay, sorry. Wait, that's Quiet Storm?
Yeah.
Shut up.
The one and only. Yeah. Here he was an indie.
Maybe it's because he looked so different. And like I've only ever seen Quiet Storm looking like a human fire hydrant. So
yeah, like, this was not the 32 CM Lariat or whatever he was in Noah.
Wow. Oh my God. You just blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, did you think there was another Quiet Storm?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, anyway. No, I mean, I knew who Quiet Storm was. I know SAT, I know Red, no clue who Brian XL and Chris Divine are.
Yeah, Divine was Quiet Storm's tag partner in Ring of Honor at the time. Again, Divine Storm, a wonderful name. They were a good team at the time as well. Brian XL didn't go very far. I know him because he was on EWR, the 2003 version. But I don't remember ever seeing him wrestle. I don't know where he went or what he did with his career, but it was not that successful. Like I know that much of it, and he looked like a geek. I'm not like, with all due respect to him. So yeah, 6-way match, interesting cast of characters. Maybe that, like, Red was like, "Hey, my boys are here, the SATs, and like, just put me in the match. We'll make it a 6-way dance." It makes you wonder, was like AJ planned to be on the show, but he was like, because they called him out in the bus, but he wasn't on the show. And
I figured this true.
Yeah, did he just like, they were for some reason TNA called him out, or was TNA even around at this point? Like February 2002.
I don't know.
Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, TNA Wrestling. When did TNA Wrestling debut? This took place in February. I would love to know if they had any power, because they did have the WWA tour in Australia, right? Which is kind of the precursor to that. It was May 20. There was no TNA yet when Ring of Honor started, so why wasn't he on the show? He was on the bus. But yeah, that feels like what it was. He would have been in this match and probably won. And instead, they were just like, "Oh man, we need to find a replacement." They could have just had a 5-way dance. To be honest, it was an elimination match if they wanted. But then Red was just like, "Nah, put me in. I don't give a..." Like, I could see Red, especially at that time. When you're young and a wrestler, you do stupid shit. So, more Dylan lore of hometown kid Dylan Fox. One of my friends, when I wrestled at ASW, was a masked wrestler. And he was known as simply the Ninja. He had a singlet and a blue mask. And it was like the most basic mask ever. Sometimes he would be like... We would goof around backstage and be like, "Hey, like, we have a kind of similar body type." I was probably around 230 at the time. And so I just put on the mask and wrestled as him. Like, did not get paid extra for it. He got paid fine. I'm sure he loved this agreement. But I just wanted to wrestle more. I was young and goofy, a teenager wrestler. Like, and you do stupid stuff sometimes. So I could see Red being like, "Hey, just let me wrestle again. It's Ring of Honor, baby. Like, Ring of Honor begins. Christopher String Connection just had a promo. I gotta go." So they start off. Mikey Whipwreck's the special guest referee, and he trained all these guys, so like that makes sense. And he kind of like calls up Red. He's the one that's like, "Hey, Red, why don't you jump up with this?" Coming in there, and they come in. It was like Joel Maximo and Quiet Storm start off, and they start off with Joel doing a Hurricane Rana, which looked dope at the time. I'm sure this is like a big deal. I've seen the SATs do their flying stuff. Divine comes in. He comes in with the SATs. They have kind of the Divine Storm and the SATs matchup early on, 2 tag teams. Jose Maximo hits a tope suicida, looked great. Divine tried to do his other one, but he looked like he was kind of scared to do it, even though here. Red hits a big springboard dive over to the outside. It looks incredible. Brian XL goes for a dive, but he fucks up. But he recovers and hits the Asai moonsault. That looked good. They go in with both Brian XL and Red doing moonsaults. And then the SATs get them. Divine Storm come in, and it's like everybody's down, like all 6 men. The crowd pop huge for all of this stuff, so I thought that part was cool. They suddenly go to rest holds here to kind of bring you back those memories of 02 WWE here. Storm comes in, hits multiple Northern Lights suplexes in a row. We get the rolling Northern Lights here from Quiet Storm. Shout out to the Young Bucks here. Maybe took some inspiration here. They come in. Joel grabs Red, he powerbombs Red into Quiet Storm. Then the SAT come together to do their triple teams. That was cool, I thought. And Brian XL comes in. He steals Red's move, the Code Red, which I have to take points away for Brian XL here. And Quiet Storm gets the elimination on... no, what happened was Maximo ended up turning on Red and hitting the backslide to eliminate him. And then immediately after that, Storm hit XL with this big move here to... I forget even what he did, but he did get an elimination about right around that time. To get the Spanish Fly, the 2-man Spanish Fly here, that's what you have to remember. The Spanish Fly is always the 1-man Spanish Fly, because just the Spanish Fly takes 2 guys. The SATs who invented this move. It looks crazy. And it comes down with Storm eliminating Jose. No, he didn't eliminate him. Divine got eliminated, and then Jose got eliminated. So yeah. So then it came down to Quiet Storm and Joel Maximo, who's the bigger one. Storm fires up. He looks to the crowd, and he looks for his big Storm Cradle Driver, which is his indie finishing move. But he can't get it until he looks for the Maximo Explosion here, and then we get the Storm Cradle Driver. What did you think?
This was fine. Like a pretty messy, scramble match.
Yeah.
Nothing that stood out. Knowing that AJ Styles probably would have been in it, I just really wish I could have seen that version. Because I think what this match was missing was kind of that ring general. No offense to Quiet Storm, but it sort of needed that in-ring leader, and it did not have that. But this was still fun. Like, I'd go 2.5 on this. I think 5's pretty appropriate. Not that it's a bad match. It's perfectly average. It's just that, they kind of go in and do their shit, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Some of the shit's cool. Some of the shit's not,
Yeah, they mess up sometimes. Pretty much. I will say this. I admire this match. It felt like everybody tried their hardest here. Like, they wanted to get noticed. Is kind of what I felt like coming in. And I like that. I think that was a lot of fun. We saw some crazy stuff happen. And it was literally a clusterfuck. But maybe I just was grading on a curve or something subconsciously, but I like this match. It's up there as one of the best matches of the show to me. I would again have it at that 3. I think it was less than the Red and Briscoe match, but I wouldn't hate going 3.5 on this. Like, 3.25, like definitely between 6 and a 7 for me. So I liked it a little better than you guys, but it has a 5.15 rating. At least we could all agree it was better than the Boogie Nights match. So this was like really cool overall. Even if it wasn't a great match, and a lot of stuff was messy, like, and it was a clusterfuck, but I thought it really worked for what they wanted. So after that, they came in and we see the Natural Born Sinners. They're like, man, we got DQ'd. This is crazy. Like, what the heck? Like, at the time. And they go for the cameraman. And then we see a debut here. Prince Nana was on this show. And he says that he is a top wrestler. And he demands competition from Rob Feinstein, who made an appearance on this show. Feinstein's like, hey, Towboy, like, you've got a great body, go out there. So it was Prince Nana versus Towboy. What were you thinking here?
Dude.
Yeah.
Steve Corino was so funny when he's just like, get yourself over. This was one of my favorite matches on the show. I thought that this whole thing was just fucking hilarious and so random because they showed Towel Boy earlier in the show doing his whole thing and everyone cheering for him. So he comes back in, does his gimmick. Nana was thick, dude. Nana was looking real thick here. I could not believe it. I said, is this the Prince Nana or the man who ate the Prince Nana? He was a big boy. No, that's compliments. It's muscular.
Facts.
But no, dude, this was so fucking random and weird and funny. Like, this felt like it had, again, like, this felt so WWF to me.
I just thought that, man, as soon as I saw it, I was like, what's Nello going to think of seeing Nana on this show? Especially, like, early Nana, which was... Here he's trying to be a wrestler. Like, there was no hint of being a manager. Towboy, I think if there's one thing you do need to watch this show for and mainly listen to us talk about it for, is Towboy lore, which I'm about to drop on you right now. So, Towboy was a guy who was like an indie, like, cult favorite. Like, from CZW at the time. Okay. But everybody kind of knew him and his gimmick. And he never went anywhere, really. But he was one of the guys that were hot here. This was fun. Anyway, nothing happened. It was like a total squash match. Destroyed him with a Foley-esque, double arm DDT here. Lifted him up, so it was good. Probably, when you think about it, one of the more... like legendary moments of the first Ring of Honor show was the debut of Prince Nana. And it's just the thing is though, I'm presumably watching this because I hate WWE. We have a lot of sports entertainment on this show, and this kind of was it.
Yeah.
Overall. So I really wonder what Gabe was going for here with some of these matches. But yeah, it was fun. Like, I liked it. Like, you can't grade it. It was only a 30-second match, but for an angle, it got Nana over. It got Towboy over. The fans were into it. Corino was funny on commentary. Everything was good about it, pretty much. So then we go to a tag match. The debut of Spanky in Ring of Honor, Brian Kendrick, also known as. I love how most people still who knew him of this time still call him Spanky, no matter what. Spanky teamed with Ikaika Loa to take on Oz and Michael Shane, Shawn Michaels' cousin here. Also known as Maverick Matt Bentley. He was a known indie guy and a TNA fixture for a few years, up until the serotonin days of him. did you have you seen these guys of this era? I'm sure you've seen Kendrick before, but did you see any of them here? Or at least know some of these people?
No, I had no idea who any of these people were besides Kendrick.
Yeah. Well, Michael Shane was a TNA guy for a while. He teamed with Kazarian for a long time. So he was known, and it'd be an important part of Ring of Honor early on. His feud with Paul London is highly regarded. The other two, all of these guys are members of Shawn Michaels training school. That was the hook of this match. All four were trained there with these guys, Shawn Michaels and Rudy Boy Gonzalez. And that was like 90% of the indies after WCW closed down was like, who trained at Michaels' school? Like, all of those guys were getting opportunities, whether it was Dragon, London, Spanky. Like, it felt like all the big names came from there for some reason. The other two, Loa and Oz, I had no idea who they were, but they were kind of big, at least compared to Spanky and Michael Shane. And they said on commentary, they were like, Loa needed back surgery. And he held it off just so we could bring out Ring of Honor, which I cannot imagine being a smart idea. But they come in. Spanky starts off and is like so clearly the best worker in this match, in my opinion. They have Michael Shane coming in. He was like trying to be the heel to Spanky's fun babyface type of guy. And Loa was like the most generic big man I think I've ever seen. Like 90% of his offense was like back clubs, I think, in this match. I guess he was working he needed back surgery, but whatever. Michael Shane hits the Shawn Michaels elbow drop at one point. Spanky does the moonsault kick to Shane, which I wasn't expecting. I've never seen him do that before, to be honest. But he did it here. And he starts dancing in the middle of the ring. The crowd loved it. He looked for Slice Blood number 2 on Oz, but Michael Shane came in and hit a super kick. Loa and Shane brawl out to the floor. Slice bread on Oz. Spanky wins. And they said, they made another thing too. They were like, whoever wins this gets the contract from Shawn Michaels' school. So he got a Ring of Honor contract. How about that?
Good for them.
Well, he got it anyway. Like I said, I don't think the other ever did anything. Like I don't think Loa did much else in Ring of Honor, unfortunately. Spanky is the one that got the contract, for sure. I'm looking at his history. No, this was the only Ring of Honor appearance. So Loa would never be seen again, and I'm sure Oz wouldn't either. I thought like the stuff with Shane and Spanky was actually pretty good. Nothing mind-blowing, but good, like, heel babyface stuff. Like, you had an asshole and a fun babyface, and I thought they worked pretty well together. The big guys weren't, like, bad, per se, but they were just very generic. And I thought they didn't add a lot. If it was just a singles match, I think it would have been better, but I still thought this was a 3-star match, maybe.
I went a lot lower on this one. This is when I kind of started hitting a wall in the show, at least with the wrestling. I was like, okay, Boogie Nights, the aerial elimination match, this squash match, and now this. Like, this was pretty much the end of the really bad wrestling sort of thing. So for me, I'd go like 2 on this, probably a lot lower than you.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's just because I kind of hit a wall with it. But the show picks up again after this.
Yeah, and it was just interesting to see like these guys in here. Again, it wasn't anything special, but I thought it was well done for what it was overall. So then they see all the guys in the high flying match, and like they're all arguing with each other, and they were like, "Hey," they were just yelling. Mikey Whipwreck's like, "Hey, shut up!" And then he brings in Super Crazy, and he's like, "Hey, I need you to bitch these guys out." And he sends Super Crazy at the SATs to yell at them, pretty much. Okay. We see the referee from the other match, and he's complaining, where he's like, "Man, I should be a wrestler. Like I keep getting booked as a referee, and I want to be a wrestler." And so he's pissed. And it was pretty awful. I don't know what this was about. I don't know what to say about it. Was this one of the ones you thought was better than the wrestling?
No.
So apparently he's gonna bring in somebody new here next week, and they're gonna take over ROH. This gimmick didn't last very, very long at all, I would say, and I don't even think it really went anywhere from the next show. I'm looking at it. No, he wasn't. He didn't wrestle on the next show. So, oh well. Like, oh well. But then after that, we get to a match that probably was the real draw of the show. Super Crazy, who we just saw, he comes out and he is defending his IWA Puerto Rico Intercontinental title against Eddy Guerrero. What did you think of this matchup? When it started?
So when at the very beginning of the show, they do like this club music montage where they pretty much show all the wrestlers like who are on the show. So I was really surprised to see Eddy, and I feel like if I hadn't have seen that, I would have been absolutely shocked here. I had no clue that Eddy was on the original Ring of Honor card. I thought this was really cool, and he cuts a promo. I'm pretty sure after the main event, it's like one of the last things you see on the tape. But he talks about this is where he wants to be. This is where wrestling is wrestling, and it's pretty much everything you hear anytime someone leaves the WWE and goes into a new company.
Yeah.
But this was cool. This felt like a little hidden gem.
Yeah, this was during his his rehab stint happened. He got fired from WWE, and he was out to prove a point that he was clean and he was here to be Eddy Guerrero. This match was made because on an RF video shoot, Eddy said that his dream match would be to face Super Crazy, who had not been in WWE at the time. He was an ECW guy, obviously, and he would come later. But he said that was one of the top guys he listed that he wanted to wrestle. So they booked it. Gabe booked it here. And again, this was probably one of the biggest draws of the show. Eddy starts off trying to ground him here. He was doing some hard-hitting stuff with some chops, some European uppercuts, some rest holds. Crazy goes crazy, but no pun intended, with a bunch of arm drags like all over the place. I love that the crowd started to count in Spanish when he did the 10 punch count in the corner. So they loved that. He goes for an Asai moonsault, but Eddy punches his legs to stop him, and he hits a brainbuster on the hardwood floor, which was freaking awesome, I do have to say. He throws him back into the ring, tries to grab him with more rest holds. Crazy gets some stuff with the big outside in springboard moonsault, missile drop kick, and they go up top. Looks for a super Frankensteiner, but that doesn't work, and he throws him down. They look for Crazy hits a big spinning wheel kick, and then Eddy hits the two straight brainbusters right away. And he looks for the frog splash, but instead, Crazy gets out. He hits a tilt-a-whirl into a small package. So upset win for Crazy here. What'd you think of this match?
This was a good match. I would probably put this right above Red and Briscoe. Maybe 3.5, 3 3/4. They only got 10 minutes, so
that was my problem with it. Yeah.
It just needed more time, honestly. Yeah. But for the time it got, it was good. Like I said, sort of just a cool club trivia hidden gem type match. Oh, who was the former WWE World Heavyweight Champion that was on the first Ring of Honor show? I guess that could have been a couple people, but anyway, it's just cool to see Eddy in these environments, honestly, because I love Eddy, but as someone who I really cannot stand WWE environments for the most part. It's really cool to see him outside of it. Like my favorite Eddy match is him and what is it, Love Machine or whatever,
Yeah, Art
versus
Bar.
Santo and
Oh, that's
Octagon.
from Worlds Collide. Yeah.
Yeah, just awesome match. So I always love seeing Eddy outside of the Fed.
Yeah, this is our second time. I mean, I honestly remembered this. This is one of the three things I remembered on the show. That the Briscoes were underage. Eddy was on the show, and the triple threat main event.
How'd you forget
I
King
love
Tut
Eddy
stuff?
I wish I had remembered all of that, to be honest. I definitely forgot the Christopher Street connection. I forgot gang type stuff. And I forgot the referee coming in there. And Feinstein was actually on the show. I forgot that too. My favorite Eddy match was probably him versus Rey Mysterio Jr. from Halloween Havoc, 97. It was like the mask versus title match. Two legendary matches his career. That match and the Love Machine versus Io da Santo and Octagon match from When Worlds Collide that you mentioned. Those are two legendary matches. I will say, like, he did have some matches in Japan when he was Black Tiger with, like, Wild Pegasus and Owen and Jushin Liger and all that. He did some good stuff under the mask. I liked him at the time in WWE. The lie, cheat, and steal thing was a fun gimmick. Very charismatic and all that. His match with Brock, where he won the title, was an amazing moment. I don't think it was like a great match, but it was a legendary moment for sure. Overall, he had that like the best JBL match ever. That bloodbath brawl that they had. That match was awesome too. And the match he had with Ray at WrestleMania was great too. That they did. They had a match on SmackDown, which was very good too. That whole Ray feud was really good, even though it ended with a stupid ladder match with Dominic. And Dean and Eddy. That was like one of the biggest, most famous ECW feuds. Dean Malenko versus Eddy too. So he did a lot of cool stuff. Was a part of SmackDown 6 with the tag team stuff with Chavo. So Eddy well deserved as a legend. I just wish this match had gotten more time. That's my only problem with it, and why it's not like up there as one of the best matches on the show. I mean, it's still one of the best matches on the show, like you said. I probably like this a bit more too. I would give it 3.5 here as well, but you could easily know if they had gotten 15, this would have been at least a 4-star match and would have been something really recommendable. But still, though, it's a lot of fun to watch, and definitely, like you said, a great trivia note. And it's only 10 minutes. Go online and check it out. It's really worth watching, guys, out there. 6.76 rating. We went a little higher, I would say. But about fair, even though I think it still should have been more. Nevertheless, a good match we liked very much. And then we go to Low-Key again. And he says that the winner will prove themselves the top athlete and the most honorable fighter in Ring of Honor. I'm Low-Key. So they go in, and that sets up the main event. They should have given Daniels a spot to talk instead of just Low-Key twice. They did Low-Key's promo earlier. I understand, like, Dragon was still, like, super green here, Bryan Danielson. But still, I would have liked to have seen them all talk to set up the importance of this main event. A true, like, Gabe staple here. You had the drawing match in the semi-main, and you had the guys you wanted to elevate the face of the company in the main event, which they did here. And so, obviously, these were who they had in mind to be the top stars. And At this point, Danielson's another like Shawn Michaels trainee. And low-key, he was trained by Homicide. Homicide trained like half the guys on the show as well. Daniels was a long-time indie worker. Again, he was in the original indie class with Reckless Youth and Quackenbush and Don Montoya, Ace Starling, and whatnot. Those guys in the 90s that kind of set the stage for where we're going with this. He was a part of that class, so he was the veteran. Danielson was less than 3 years into his career at this point. And that's how good that's how good he already was, that he jumped the line over all these here. And a big thing was the Super 8 tournament, which was a legendary tournament in the Indies at the time, like the early 2000s. He was a big part of that as well. And they set things up there. They start off with Danielson and Low-Ki, and then Daniels is like, hey, I'm here too. Come on, why don't y'all fight me? So then all three of them go into the indie standoff. He ends up suplexing Danielson into a Tree of Woes position, and that lets Low-Ki hit the flying basement dropkick on him. There was some great work with Danielson going in there and catching Ki in the counter mutilation pretty early on here, which was his big indie finisher at the time. And at one point, he puts Daniels into a Muda lock and then catches Low-Ki into the Northern Lights into the Muda lock at the same time. Low-Ki comes in with like 55 kicks in a row, I think. Like Kawada style kicks on Dragon. Daniels comes in, tries to throw some suplexes, hits a Uranagi at one point. The crowd is going crazy over this. Ki hits a big kick, and Danielson no-sells that. Danielson kicks Low-Ki. He no-sells. And then Danielson is like, hey, calm down now. They both kick Daniels. That was a great spot. Like, they both no-sold each other's kicks, and then Daniels tried to do his heel stuff, and they both kicked him at the same time, and he got dropped. It was good stuff. Daniels takes control with the crab hold on Low-Ki. He gets the neck breaker into the DDT, so double 2-for-1 special for Daniels here too. Then they do a spot where Daniels gets tilt-a-whirled by Low-Ki into a DDT onto Danielson, which looked fucking awesome. Low-Ki jumps off the ropes with an enziguri. And Daniels, they all three are on the top rope. They're all tied up. Daniels has Low-Ki in an abdominal stretch. Low-Ki has Brian in the Dragon Sleeper. And they all go down there. Go down after that. Daniels hits a Blue Thunder bomb. Looks for the fall from grace. But then he ends up hitting the STO. Best moonsault ever. But Brian breaks that up. Brian grabs Daniels into the cattle mutilation. Then Ki hits the Phoenix Splash to break that up. And the Ki Crusher on Daniels. Low-Ki pins Daniels in the main event of the first ever show. This was by far the best match on the show. Do you agree with that?
Did you see the Tower Boy Prince Nana match? Or no, of course this was the best match on the show. This was what made the show worth watching in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, because if it had ended after the other match, I would have been like, man, this really let me down. But then after this, it's like, yes, you could see why Ring of Honor was so needed and so great at the time after this main event. It was so special and awesome. I loved watching this. Even with 2025 eyes, this would be a match of the year level match now, in my opinion. Especially in the era where multi-mans have been done to death. I thought they were still doing innovative stuff in 2002 with this.
Yeah, no, this was an amazing main event. I would go scraping the surface right underneath 9, 8.5 on this is where I'd go. So right below where the inmates have it. I know this is considered to be like one of the best matches of 2002 as a whole. So like, not only is this the match of the night, but this was a match of the year contender for back then as well, which, is nothing to discredit this, but I think you can see how far wrestling has also come to where like this would be something that is like, could just drop on Collision nowadays and you'd get this on TV for free. And it's just like, damn, we are spoiled. And it's because of this, though, that we have gotten to where we are now,
You could easily trace that back to this very match, honestly. I would go 9. Yeah.
I was going to say, for real, from Christopher Street to Daly's Place, it's just, you can see the origins of pro wrestling.
I said this match. I didn't say the start of the show. No. Like I said, let's clear the air here. I did not say that. I said you can trace it back to the main event.
Exactly, the Christopher Street match. That was the main event. Everything else after was just filler. But no, man, this was killer. So you go 9?
Yeah, I would definitely go. This is a 4.5-star match. I think this was great. Again, even by 2025 standards, this would be up there as one of the best matches if this happened on TV today. And I just think it shows how much of a genius Chris Daniels is as a wrestler, because he was the one that was guiding this. Like, these guys, the other guys were still pretty young into their career. There was so much like thought put into the triple threat spots. They didn't just have one guy fights and then 2 guys fight and one guy leaves the ring. There was constant motion, constant attempts to get all 3 men involved. Daniels was fantastic in his role as the heel, like foil to the 2 serious guys. I totally enjoyed this match. I think it's better than most triple threats like today, if we're being honest. So this was like a great match. I highly recommended to watch.
Where would you go overall in the show? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's just clear it out real quick. So afterwards, Brian, he brags like, yeah, low key, you did win, but you didn't beat me. And he's like, all right, me and you one-on-one at the next show. And then Daniels is like, now wait a minute. I could beat both of you guys in singles matches, even if they're both on the same day. And Loki's like, all right, let's do it. Like, we're going to do a round-robin tournament at the next show. Key and Dragon, they shake hands. Daniels walks out, establishing him as the heel. And that setup, which was the second show in Ring of Honor history, which was noteworthy, called Round Robin Challenge. It was all built around these 3, pretty much. Which, by the way, featured Ken Shamrock in the main event as a guest referee. Overall. So then we see the Eddy, like you said, he was kind of the main guy, where he was saying, I lost because I wasn't as hungry as Super Crazy, but this is where I want to be because everyone's hungry and I see where this company could go. And then Daniels walks off and storms out of the building, just looking angry. So here's the thing with this show, to answer your question. The main event was phenomenal. And as I told you, I feel like I'm kind of inherently biased because this gives me I'm very nostalgic for this show. So even as morally offensive as the opening angle was, it felt like we were in a time travel machine watching that, Like, that's something we'll probably never see today, and for good reason. Like, that is a good thing. I don't want to see it. Like I said, I actually thought it could have been played off a lot better and worked, but the commentary made it clear that this was, like, completely offensive. As stupid as it was. I thought the production values were clearly very low to start off. The commentary was like, sometimes I thought they were funny, sometimes I thought they were annoying, to be honest. With all due respect to Steve Corino and Eric G as well. And the matches were kind of not what I wanted from the show. like from a Ring of Honor show in 2002, I wanted it to be better than it really was. But the main event, like, basically confirmed that I can't help but like this show. I feel like it would be a 6.5 out of 10 would be what I would give it. What about you, though? What would be your overall take on the show?
I'd go 6. I think that the nostalgic charm helped balance the lack of match quality. The highs were very high. The lows were astonishingly low for
so
having
low.
Promised a brand new alternative. Just so low. I was like like, you know, the opening was so offensive, but I was just laughing so hard because I was like, we're trying to start a new beginning. What is happening? It was so funny, dude. I mean, I had a great time watching this, honestly. I got a little bit, you know, in the middle, hit a little bit of a wall, but overall, I think that, you know, I had a lot more fun covering this than a 3-hour, 40-minute, 5-match PLE with more match or more ad time than match time. And yeah, I'll get my dig in.
I enjoyed this more than most shows, to be honest, that we review. Even like All In, like that was a great show in some ways, but also lasted like 7 hours as well. So that was kind of like not my favorite to go back and watch. This was more like concise. It's like 2.5 hour show. All like they had wrestling, but they also had angles, and most of them were bad. I'm not gonna lie. The promos and angles were clearly you could tell that most of these people did not have TV experience. I think, like pretty clearly, but they at least they tried at the end of the day, and I appreciate that. So I really enjoyed this, and I hope that we do more of these kind of shows. To be honest, going forward, I would like to go through the history of the company and the indies and where we're at, like from back then to now. So yeah, like really cool stuff here. You know, and it's something that's lasted through all of the forms that they've taken. To this day, they're going to have a pay-per-view at the end of the month coming right after Forbidden Door. And I look forward to reviewing that as well. But I really hope we can do more of this era because I love the 2000s indie scene like so much. It's near and dear to my heart, and I had a ton of fun. And I think the main event, everybody should watch the main event. Like that will like give you great feelings as a wrestling fan, in my opinion. But yeah, really cool stuff. Hopefully, all you guys enjoyed our trip down memory lane. Only our second past show and our first past show that was not a WWE past show with the ECW stuff. Do you have any last words for everybody before we close out the show?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to do a little preview of our upcoming month, if that's okay.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so next week on Thursday and Friday, there is the Juggalo Championship Wrestling versus GCW 2-day war happening live from the Gathering of the Juggalos on Triller TV, Thursday, Friday. So I imagine that Dylan and I will probably be dropping an episode on Saturday, recapping both days. The weekend after that, GCW goes to Atlantic City for their biggest weekend of the year. It's homecoming weekend. I'm really excited for that. And then the weekend after that, we've got Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really fun month with some big shows every week.
Yeah, we'll try to figure out how we manage.
And then we got Forbidden Door as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
Like, yeah, so we'll do that. Maybe one day we'll get back to modern WWE, but it was time for a break. Like, you know, at the end of SummerSlam, I told him, I was like, I feel like you're being held hostage on your own show, and I don't want that. At the end of the day, like, who wants that? I had so much more fun reviewing this one.
No, overall. And here's the thing. I totally respect that if we are here for Cage Match and 5-Star to cover North America, right? So if people are like, we want the coverage of WWE, I totally understand. I'm not going to I'm not going to deny people that, right? It comes with the literal territory that we're covering. But if people are also feeling like how we're feeling, disillusioned, uncomfortable, like just not really feeling it anymore, then I would love to invest the energy elsewhere, right? But at the same time, I'm not doing this as some like, dictator edict, right? That's like no more WWE, nothing like that. It's just seeing if we can do something new. And if you're down for that journey, we'd love to have you with us. And if not, let us know because we're here for you too.
Yeah, like I said,
sorry.
It's not a forever declaration. Like I said, right now, I think the vibes are just not great. And on top of it, the shows were not easy to watch. Like at the end of the day, like I'm sure we'll go back into that water. We might review some old WWE shows too. I always hesitate to make a big, like grandstanding moralist statement because we saw that a lot of people on Twitter vowed that they would never watch WWE again, only to immediately go back to it again. We gave our take on that last time. Like I really don't want to do that, but right now just the vibes were not good, and I want to do something that we have fun with and we like doing. At the end of the day, like I said, one day we'll get back, I'm sure. And like I said, I'm not writing off doing older shows too. But just for now, like the next couple of months, like we needed a break. Like, there's nothing really going on in Paris that's that great. So anyway, so it's fine. Like I really don't have any bad feelings about it at all. Like I think it was a good thing, a good decision, and especially at this start, I really, really, really enjoyed watching this show. And as I said, I can't wait to go back to do more. Go through the indies because that is the thing. Like most of our shows have been either WWE or AEW. But we represent the indies too, like as why. That's why we're gonna do next week with even Juggalo Championship Wrestling will get its time here, and I personally look forward to that as well. So yeah, like I can't wait to go into it. Anello just dropped some knowledge on y'all. You got a lot of stuff to look forward to in the coming weeks. It's gonna be a bona fide hoot, if I do say so myself.
Right before we go, Dylan, I just want to get your thoughts because I've got thoughts, but I'm going to save them for the show. But just a quick preview of the 2-day war between GCW, JCW.
Let's do it.
I'm going to run down the match cards real quick. So day one, because I was looking at these and there's definitely some surprises in here. So I'm excited to get your thoughts. I'll just run them down real quick and you just give me your quick lightning round stuff. So in a non-title match, we've got the Brothers of Funstruction, Ruffo the Clown and Yabo the Clown versus Young Dumb and P. I forgot what the price. I think it stands for Price. I forget. But Alec Price and Jordan Oliver. Any thoughts?
I am happy to see Price and Jordan Oliver in there.
How much are you familiar with Juggalos?
I was just about
to Championship.
They actually emailed me to wrestle for them once a long time ago. This is back when JCW was like super small. Like
if you still have the email, you should respond now and go wrestle on the show, so we'll get the insider scoop.
I'm calling it up. 06. like I know you emailed me 20 years ago. My God, you motherfuckers need me on this show. That could be like an invasion angle, just me. Like there, just ASW.
Woo Crew.
Yeah, we're Woo Crew, most importantly, much more known than ASW. I have no knowledge of the Brothers of Funstruction, but I am familiar with Juggalo Championship Wrestling. Like I know the history of it, and Too Tough Tony and all the rest that have been through there.
Here, I'm going to run down the whole card, and then after that, you just give me any thoughts if you have them. So we've got a wartime death match between Dr. Redacted and Mickey Knuckles.
Indie legend, Mickey Knuckles coming in there. That's going to be a violent ass match. Go on.
Yep. Mickey always shows up, dude. She will literally eat glass. Street War grudge match between the ace of Juggalo Championship Wrestling, Too Tough Tony. He drinks Ciroc and just sprays it on, or he has that finisher where he pours like Ciroc all over his hand and then he lights his hand on fire and punches them. He'll be facing Joey Janela. We've got the new Atticus Kogar faction of him, Christian Napier, and Otis versus Cocaine, Mosh Pit Mike, and Steven Flo, which sounds fucking awesome, dude. Cocaine, Mosh Pit Mike, and are you familiar with Steven Flo?
Oh.
He is the wrestler that comes out, and his entrance theme is Even Flow by Pearl Jam.
Yeah,
but every single lyric has been changed to Steven Flow.
I love it.
Drew Parker showing up versus Miles Clark in a shock and awe death match. A 6-man tag team match of Alice Crowley and the Backseat Boys representing JCW. Backseat Boys are literally like a boy band. They're fucking awesome. Versus Masha Slamovich, John Wayne Murdoch, and Reed Bentley.
Okay, hold on. Who are the Backseat Boys? Because the Backseat Boys I know are Trent Acid and Johnny Cashman. I know they ain't them.
No, I mean, so maybe they're the new ones.
Yeah, like who the fuck are the Backseat Boys? Like gimmick stealing.
JP Grayson and Tommy Grayson. Oh. And okay, so I guess they started with Johnny Cashmere in 2023.
Okay,
but he's not with them currently. But so,
he kind of passed the torch because I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like the Trent Acid is not on the show. Like they're not. Even they are not going to fall so low to advertise that.
And then finally, in a questionable allegiance 3-way match, it's Mecha Wolf versus Shane Mercer versus Bam Sullivan. And then going to day 2, we've got a 20-man Battle Riot match, a 4-way match between Masha Slamovich, Alice Crowley, Hollywood Haley J, and Priscilla Kelly. Very excited to see Priscilla Kelly at the Gathering of the Juggalos. Tag team death match between the Rejects and the Outbreak. Nick Nemeth versus Atticus Kogar, Dylan.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's not what I had in mind.
Might be representing JCW here.
Yeah, because I would say, like, whose side is he on? I thought he was the TNA guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, this second day, though, like, first day is a lot of fun, random shit, but this second day now, we're going to get into the titles. We've got the JCW American title on the line with Caleb Conley. Perennial indie darling, Caleb Conley.
He's the JCW champion? What the
Yes, former premier athlete from Evolve, Caleb Conley, versus Great Sasuke.
Oh, okay.
GCW world title match, representing, of course, the GCW, is Effie, their champion, versus Willie Mack.
Okay.
And then finally, in an exploding barbed wire death match for the JCW heavyweight title, it's Matt Tremont versus Madman Pondo.
Well, he's a blast from the 2000s, I will say.
Dude, you can't call him that anymore because he was a BJW deathmatch champion like a year ago. He's current BJW main event.
What a show. I can't wait to watch it with you. And like I said, I'm. This is another one where I'm entering unfamiliar territory. You know, but I'm open-minded. I'm going to give this a shot.
This will be my first ever JCW show too. My knowledge of JCW is purely through their interactions with GCW and like the stuff that I've seen online and whatnot. So like I know the characters, but I very rarely have watched these people wrestle. So I'm pretty excited.
I know that the first time I knew of JCW was their video game, Backyard Wrestling. Don't try this at home, for the PS2, which they had 2 versions of that. Like they had a sequel as well. So that is when I first heard about Juggalo Championship shit wrestling, as it used to be called. But that's fine. You know, they've obviously grown a lot, and they're doing their thing to this day, and now they've bumped up to where they're facing GCW. I do know that the Juggalos, or the clowns, the Insane Clown Posse, they are big wrestling fans. Like legit fans. You know, starting with like Stranglemania, they were a part of all that. They were renting the Japanese tapes, and you know they were one of the OG tape traders, I think, coming in there. So they love wrestling. So I do respect them a lot for that. So I know that the Juggalo fan base is like super diehard and all that stuff. Again, I respect all that, even if it is a little crazy of a scene. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be good. I cannot wait to get into it. Good preview of next week as well. And hopefully all you guys stick around and tune in for that, for something way different from Ring of Honor, even though it may not be that different. Like, to be honest, based on some of the sports entertainment aspects that we saw. The era of Honor begins. And where would it go? But we would go to all the way back to 2025. So I look forward to that next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you, as always, Nello, for coming along with me on this unexpected journey to the first Ring of Honor show. It's going to be a ton of fun. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the concepts, all the cool stuff coming forward. Can't wait to do more. But, as always, you know I love you. And until next time, this has been your Wrestle Update.